All right, welcome back. We're here with Terence Walsh, extraordinaire. Terence, thank you for joining us on this beautiful Monday morning.
It's my pleasure. Looking forward to it. We're getting a lot of competing situation questions popping up as of late, so it's a great time to discuss it as we enter into a busier time of our season.
Well, and we have Terence to thank for this. Terence was on our manager, I'm going to say chat. It seems like our email streams are chats sometimes. But Terence posted up and said, hey, wouldn't it be nice if we had some kind of educational piece on how to work with competing offers on, both the buyer's agent side and the listing agent side. And we said, yes, let's start with CIR Live. So, Terence, thank you for giving us your time. And let's start right from the top. Let's get right into it. Talk about it from the listing side, the listing perspective. We always say focus on listings. So you've listed a great property. You did a great job in promoting it. And now you have some competing offers.
Yes. Well, there's a little bit of theory, and then I'll get into some points to share.
Perfect.
So imagine you're a 12th grade math teacher.
I like
Lindsay
it.
and I do this all the time. Imagine you're a 12th grade math teacher, and your student, one of your favorite students, is prepping for their exam, and their post-secondary career depends on how well they do on this exam. Well, in real life, you cannot tell your student what questions are going to be there.
Right.
All you can really do is tell them, study the curriculum.
Right.
When you get to the test, I'm sure you'll do fine. Now imagine for a second that you can tell your favorite student what questions, the hardest questions are going to be on that exam so they can prepare for exactly that question. That's like competing offers. You as the listing agent and the buyer's agent, you have the ability to prepare your clients for these tough questions so that when it comes, they're prepared. They can make those decisions quicker. They can make them with confidence and not feel really rushed and uncomfortable with the situation.
Totally.
And you as the professional, you look professional, which you are. You're preparing your client for these situations to come. And overall, it just creates a much healthier process and one which creates less questions overall. Questions where you're in the 9th hour, you got to make a decision and, oh, do we do A, do we do B? Let's just do B. We want to avoid that if we can. Right?
Totally.
Yeah. So a few tips for the listing agent.
Perfect.
Educate your seller during the listing process. Don't wait for it to happen. Educate them ahead of time. Understand your market, how many competitors your client has. You're going to want to try and understand how likely it is you may end up in a competing situation.
Right.
Yes, you should be discussing this prior to listing every property. At the same time, there are situations where it's more likely you're going to compete than others.
Yes.
So you'll definitely want to focus and spend more time.
And that takes some experience to know.
It does.
Sometimes people are just shocked, just like, oh my gosh, I didn't expect this type of activity. And sometimes you're like, okay, this one's going to go quick.
Yes.
You know what? We're going to try to get all of our showings done today and deal with everything tonight. And you just feel it. And your phone might even blow up the first second you put it on.
Yes.
And now you can immediately know. But like you said, having that conversation with your sellers in advance is so important.
Yep. And some of you newer agents, you may be having a tough time doing a CMA on a property in a particular community because there's not a lot of sales. That should be your first indication that there could be a hungry group of buyers out there just waiting.
That's right.
And so the newer agents really, if you're having a lot of difficulty with a CMA, that should be one of your first clues that you could be listing a really hot property to be.
There's no available supply, so obviously there's some demand. Yeah.
Precisely. Listing agent tip number 3, be calm. There's generally no rush to present an offer the very hour it comes in a situation where you have 10 showings lined up for the day, 2 showings lined up still to happen in the next couple of hours. Inform your client that there's an offer in, but also prepare that there may be more coming. Your patience and your calm demeanor in those situations, it really gives your client a sense of calm as well.
So Terence, you talk about that for a second. So let's walk through this scenario. So you have it where it's you put it on the market on Friday. It's 10 a.m. You have 15 showings lined up for Saturday.
Yes.
And at 10 a.m. on Saturday morning, an offer comes in and it's set to expire at 1 p.m.
Yes.
What do you do?
Talk to your client about it. Let them know about all the showings that are coming.
Yeah.
And ultimately, you're going to leave the decision in their capable hands. But when you have that many showings lined up for Saturday, even some that spill into Sunday, it's very likely that with that kind of activity, there is more buyers interested in writing an offer.
Yeah.
And you owe it to your client to educate them that there's a chance more will come in, and if you do get a competing situation to occur, there's a better chance they're going to sell for a premium or at least meet more of the needs that they have with their sale. So be patient, be calm, be prepared to tell that first offer from getting the advice of your seller and the direction. We're going to hold off and present offers on Sunday at 7 p.m. Give everybody a chance to get in and get their offers in.
Now you have to notify your client that the offer came in,
100%.
or as reasonable as possible. You have to do that. Doesn't mean your client needs to look at it and start negotiating on it.
Correct.
Or your negotiation might be, well, your offer came in. We got 15 other showings. If you want us to wrap this up, take off all the conditions, give us full price, double your deposit, and we're off to the races.
That's right. And that's another way where you have to study the market. If you know that you have a lot of competition, you might have a lot of showings, but if other similar properties just are not selling, this could just be the activity. It could not. It could mean you might not get 10 offers. You've got to understand the market of what you're selling in and understand the likelihood of if all those people have seen all those other properties, are you superior?
Right.
Or are you just another one of 10 properties that is getting a lot of activity with a lot of tire kickers? So you really got to weigh the pros and the cons in the overall community that you're selling in and the likelihood you're going to get an offer. And like we say, when you do get that one offer quick, there could be more to come. There might not be. So it's not the easiest thing to decide, but in that situation, I'd be recommending to my clients we hold off till Sunday. We weigh all offers as they come in, and if we get none, well, we play it how we can.
Yeah.
So,
well, you can always go with the information you have.
Correct. Yep. Number 5, breathe and act in the best interest of your seller at all times.
Yes.
Sometimes we have situations where we have a buyer that enters the mix into a competing situation. If I am the listing agent and I'm also representing a buyer, all parties can understand that there could be some, you don't want to act unfairly, of course, but all the other parties that are watching this unfold, they're going to be looking to try and pick you apart. If you happen to be representing a buyer, you have vested interest in both parties. You got to be really careful on that. So remember to take it easy, breathe, and remember your job is to represent both parties as best as you can, ultimately your seller. You want to make sure that you're not going to breach any rules with RECA or CREB. And at the end of the day, discuss it with your seller and have a plan prepared for if that situation arises.
And let's just elaborate that for a second. I mean, if you're in a situation where you actually have buyer brokerage with this buyer coming on, then obviously it's transaction brokerage. You act impartially for the buyer and the seller. But in the case where you have an offer come in off the street, but someone wants to write with you and they become a customer, your agency relationship is still with your seller.
Yes.
So that's very important. And if you just meet somebody on the street, don't bring them in and sign them up on buyer brokerage. Now let's actually talk. Let's switch gears for a second. I might take you away from your notes for one second here, but let's go into the actual mechanics of it. So you have offers coming in. What are you allowed to disclose? What should you disclose as a listing realtor? And then maybe address that situation where the old school, and I should say old school realtors believe that when you have your own offer, you must bring in a manager. Like you must. And that's actually up to your seller's decision.
100%.
But let's talk me through that a little bit. You get more offers. How should you start the process?
The very first piece to the puzzle that you start with this is to talk to your seller. Now, if you did prepare them previous for this, that this situation might occur, they already have an idea. So if your seller says to you that they do not wish for you to disclose that there are multiple offers, you have no obligation to do so to the buying parties.
Give us an example of that, because I mean sometimes we're all programmed to think that it's always in the seller's best interest to disclose there's multiple parties, there's multiple offers, but that may or may not be true.
Right. Well, in a situation like we discussed before, you've got 15 showings.
Yeah.
And somebody wants to put an offer in right away. Well, at that point, you have maybe 2 offers on the table, but your seller decides it's in their best interest to see how many they can get. Well, at that point, your seller may instruct you to say to that first and second offer, we are discussing options, we have a lot of activity, and we actually wish to put a hold and a pause on things till Sunday at 7.
Yeah.
You don't at that time have to tell them that they're competing. Right. Because it starts to prep them. Yeah. You kind of want to buy a little bit of time for your seller in that scenario. Yeah. In other situations, if a seller wishes for you not to disclose that there are competing situations, they want to wait to see how things unfold and their options, they have every right to do so. Yep. What happens, though, is that when you enter situations where, like you said, the old school realtors, or the ones that read some of the legislation on RICA or CREB, they may be steered in one direction, and they may completely miss the fact that as a listing agent, you must abide by your seller's instructions.
Yes.
Some buying realtors can kind of be bullies. They can try and push around the selling agent, and the selling agent doesn't always know all of their rights.
Yes.
So from that, it always comes back to you obeying the lawful instructions of your seller.
Yes.
Now that brings me to one of my seller points. If you're the listing realtor and you're not too sure of all your rights, if you think that your seller is going to instruct you in a way that contradicts RICA or CREB legislation, what you want to do is review the rules. You want to talk to a manager.
Yeah.
And if they are wanting you to do something that is totally within their right, but is going to contradict the views of the buying realtors, get it in writing. Write it down, write a blurb that says, my seller has instructed me to do this, put a time and a date.
Yeah.
Seller signs it, buying or listing agent signs it, and now you're covered to proceed.
Yes.
As long as it's lawful instructions.
Yeah.
And when those situations arise where you're not sure what is lawful or not, we strongly recommend you take a look at RICA, you take a look at CREB, and you familiarize yourself with the rules and also contact a manager. As managers, we really like it when agents take it upon themselves to investigate a little bit first so that you can come in with some education on the topic and we can now steer you better.
Section 11 of the CREB rules is what it is.
Yes,
so
yep. And there's also some bulletins on RICA where they've had candid discussions about things. This may come as a shock to people, but a selling agent has no obligation to act fairly during a competition.
Yes. You can't lie.
That's
you
correct.
Can't lie. You do not have an obligation to treat the other realtor or other realtors fairly. And I just want to say this. There's an old school beliefs about things like if you have your own offer in and you are going to be cutting your commissions, you have to disclose that. That's complete BS. That's complete BS because that would be trying to give this other realtor an essence of fairness when in reality, all you're doing is trying to represent your client's best interest. So that might be in the best interest of your clients. You can proceed that way. Now, there's other rules that are, and the way the rules are written are they say you do this unless otherwise agreed to in writing by your seller. So you're going to educate your seller on all their options and then proceed from there. But some of the more common ones is you would notify people of the offers. If they ask what realtors are bringing the offers, you would tell them which realtors so they can verify that there is indeed an offer. We're going to go on the buying side here in a second, but from the listing realtor's perspective, if the seller wanted to disclose what information is in those offers to other people, you can do so with their written instructions.
That is correct.
But you need their written instructions to do so.
That is correct. And some of you right now are breathing a collective sigh, like, I can't believe that is something we can do.
Yes.
The legislation states that you have the ability, under your seller's written instruction, to disclose the best offer or portion of that offer to all buying parties.
Right.
And the number one thing you cannot do is disclose the names of the buying party.
Right.
But you can, in essence, block out the names of the buying party, and you can send the entire offer to all of the buyers involved, giving everybody equal opportunity to put their best foot forward if they choose to increase their offer.
That's right.
Now, this is a strategy that I highly recommend you do in multiple offers, where you have numerous offers. But it's not a strategy that I recommend that you employ when you have 2 or 3 offers. Yeah. Where one is way up here and the rest are down here.
Yes.
You might have one offer that's $430,000 and all the rest are at $400 or $405.
Yeah.
Yes, the buyer could come up quite a bit, but typically when buying parties find out that they're competing, they usually put their best foot forward.
Yes.
Or they should be.
Yes.
So the fact that the thought that they're going to come up another $20,000 or $25,000 is not logical.
And if someone discovers you share their offer, they could easily revoke their offer.
They could.
At the same time, and that's where sometimes people don't want to tell there's other multiple offers if someone's hesitant. They want to get a situation where I don't want to compete, so trying to hold on to those offers is important as well. So having some experience on there, it's not best to just create an open auction format for that. You want to be very careful with how you employ those tactics.
It is situational, and what's interesting is if you're the selling agent in this scenario, you will receive some pushback from the buying agents.
Yes.
Some of them are going to say, you can't do that.
Yes.
And it's going to challenge you in the moment to be like, maybe they're right.
Yes.
That agent's got 20 years of experience and I've only got 5. Don't question yourself, okay? Be strong and be confident if you've studied the rules and you understand them correctly.
I just want to make a shout out here to our folks up in Cara and the Red Deer that are just like, we can't do this in Red Deer or anything else. The rules have changed. If you guys, a couple months ago, Cara sent out their new harmonized set of rules, which actually mirror Krebs now. So the rules are the same across the board now, regardless of what board you're in. Just as an FYI on that. Okay, we're going to go over time, which I appreciate you guys sticking around. But let's switch gears. Let's go to the buyer side. Just a summary on the listing agent side. If you're unsure about how it works, check out Section 11 of the legislation, the REISCA bulletins. Your managers can send that to you, but reach out to a manager if this is your first time dealing with it, and just let them know.
Over the next couple of days, I'll put together a summary that can be sent out to the company.
Perfect.
Just with some tips and whatnot to try and navigate these tough scenarios.
Great. Look forward to seeing that tomorrow. All right. Buyer's agents.
Some buying tips. Once again, educate your buyers on what could happen when they see a property that you think could end up in a multiple situation. Educate them beforehand. That's going to help you incredibly. Educate them that if they give the top dollar offer, that might not be the offer that gets selected in a competing situation. Some agents will argue with me to the very end that if they make an offer that is $10,000 higher than another offer, that what is the seller even thinking about accepting a lesser offer?
Right.
The truth is that other offer could have no conditions.
You bet.
It could have a flexible possession date that completely appeals to the seller's needs, whereas that $10,000 offer could have a possession date 21 days from now, which is impossible for the seller to meet. So that dangling carrot of $10,000 extra dollars, it's not enough to get them to move.
Yeah, it's not all about price.
That's right.
That's a huge point that people miss. They just think, and then when you're new and you're advising buyers, all you need is one competing offer to go in where you accept the highest one, and it falls apart due to financing or something else, comes back on the market, and now you're selling it for less, and you have a sick feeling in your stomach.
Yes.
That you will know that offer that's firm immediately or is stronger is definitely worth looking at, regardless of the price.
Absolutely. Tip number 2, buyer's agent, know what market your client is buying in. That sounds redundant and foolish of me to say. But if you know what's been selling, how quickly it's been selling,
yes.
If properties have been going over asking price, if you know that there hasn't been properties hitting the market in that area for some time for that particular type of property, there's a good chance it's going to go into competition. So educating your client beforehand, again, is paramount so they understand the process as well, along with their rights. They may understand that their kid needs to be in a school in that district. This is the first house that's hit in a long time. They may be able to weigh these things before they put pen to paper. And if they do so, they're going to put their best offer forward, which is going to give them a much better chance of getting it, versus trying to figure all this out in the 9th hour, make a quick decision that they're going to be uneasy with.
Yeah.
A rule of thumb that I always practice through my career is I'd say to my clients, if we lose this property for $1,000, are you going to lose sleep tonight? And on the flip side, if we actually get it for the offer we're going to put in, are you going to lose sleep thinking you overpaid? It's a tough one. It's a tough line to cross.
You got to set them up mentally because they got to know that can happen. And we've seen buyer's remorse on both sides of it, missing out as well as. I had a girl call me up one day and said, Lindsay, if I had known it came without conditions, I would have removed all my conditions. And I'm like, listen, we'll call her Jane. Like, Jane, no. Like, you would not have done that just to find out the foundation's cracked and gone in. Like, come on.
That's right.
Yeah.
Know your market, know your property, let your buyer understand their motivations, right? Tip number 3, you can contact the competing realtors if the selling side lets you know who they are.
That's right.
Selling side could have written instruction from their seller not to disclose who the other buying realtors are. Most likely they will be able to disclose it because it's in their best interest, but sometimes they won't. You do have the right to ask. You do have the right to call those realtors and say, hey, Lindsay Smith with so-and-so Realty, are you in fact representing a buyer on this property? Usually they'll say yes. Thank you very much.
That's it. Just a quick verification that you are indeed competing.
You can now look your client in the eye and tell them, I did everything I could to verify there were other offers.
Yeah.
That promotes trust in you that you're driving the bus confidently. It helps to make your buyer understand that if you lose it or if you get it, you did everything you could. Because the number one question that comes up when people win it, how do we know there was another offer?
That's right. And I'll tell you, we've seen it where, and this is the most frustrating thing in the world, a property has been in the market for 73 days, seems like there's been no showings, your client's interested, and now you're competing.
Yes.
Well, why is that? Oh, just out of the blue, now everyone's, now everyone's interested. But I'll tell you what happens is that they might have had some people that have been in it once or twice, and now that realtor, if there's even a sniff that an offer's coming, I know what I would do. 73 days in the market, I'm going back to every single realtor that's ever showed that property just to let them know if they showed any kind of interest. And now I am shaking the tree so hard to try to bring another offer. Someone might come in with a complete low ball, and let's say the property listed for 500. They come in at 430, thinking the client's motivated, and then now someone think about writing an offer, and you say, guess what? You're competing. They don't know that offer's 430.
That's right.
They have no idea, but they're competing. And you can ask them, can I see the other offer? And a simple no is sufficient. And now your client's like, oh gosh, I need to offer full price, but it's not always that close. The first offer might be just a low ball.
That's right.
But now you're competing. So I love that on the listing agent side.
And the listing agent, you're acting in the best interest of your seller, trying to drum up as many offers as you possibly can.
You got it.
Yep. Tip number 4, buying agents regularly ask the listing agent,
thank you,
am I still competing?
Yes, this is critical because they don't have to tell you.
There is no legal obligation for a listing agent to tell you that the other offers have dropped out.
That's right.
Krebs guidelines state that there is. However, that is superseded by a seller's lawful instructions not to volunteer that information.
Yeah.
So buying
agents, if you have written disclosure saying the seller said, or a seller has disclosed or said to me, do not let them know the other offers have dropped out.
Now, when that question comes up, they do have a legal obligation to act honestly, which means they now have to answer that question honestly. But if they're never asked, they have no obligation to volunteer that information. It's crucial. You're only competing with another offer, and suddenly you find out the other guy bowed out for one reason or the next. Your offer for your buyer should change.
So a quick scenario here. I've called up Terence. Terence said we're presenting an offer Sunday at 6 p.m. Fine. I'm writing up my offer, and I say, hey, Terence, how many offers are there? There's one other offer. Great. And who is it from, or whatever? And maybe you give me the name. I talk to that person, and great. We're preparing an offer. I'm just about to submit it. I call Terence one more time, and I say, Terence, I just want to confirm, are we still competing? He says yes. I say, great. He counters my offer, whatever it is. Before I submit my counter, Terence, I just want to make sure we're still competing. Maybe Terence says, Lindsay, my seller has now instructed me not to disclose that.
That's right.
I have to read between the lines, which is lawful.
Yes.
Which is lawful.
Yes.
I can't say, yes, you are still competing when in fact you're not.
Yes.
I can say, the seller has now instructed me not to disclose that. I say, maybe we'll go back to our original offer.
That's right.
So
that's the best interest of your buyer.
You got it.
At that point, right? Be up to speed at all times and ask those questions. Definitely ask those questions.
Number 5.
Number 5, educate yourself extensively on multiple offers. Usually when a buyer loses a competing scenario, some emotions get involved.
Yes.
The buying agent has emotions as well. Sometimes, that festers, and sometimes it explodes on you, the listing agent. The better prepared you are to answer that buying agent that's really upset that they lost because they're venting the frustration of their buyer.
Right.
The better prepared you are and the more confident you are, the less likely anything will arise out of it.
That's right.
As broker delegate, I get calls regularly about the people that have lost, asking if the selling side acted fairly and in the best interest of their client, and so and so. And I'm very proud to say that for the most part, our agents are well versed. They check with management. They do act properly.
And often it's over the fact of, I don't think they presented my offer in a timely fashion.
Yes.
I don't think they presented my offer. And then he went on and worked my offer to get other things. Well, your offer can just die. Like, that's okay.
Right. That's right.
And yes, they have to make reasonable efforts, but trying to prove that, you guys, is so difficult. Like,
That's right.
It's how do I prove that they did it?
Yep. And with that, sometimes we're going to run a little bit more over time. I'll be as quick as I can. Sometimes what will happen is you've listed a property and a customer will come in off the street and want to make an offer. You as the listing agent, you have the right to handle that.
Yes.
At the end of the day, a lot of the buying parties are going to be upset because now if they find out, and they should find out, they're going to feel like you've acted underhanded, like you've acted in your best interest versus the best interest of the particular seller.
Yes.
If your seller instructs you in writing that, I don't know your manager at all, I trust you. We started this journey. I trust that you'll act with integrity and you'll be transparent. You'll do everything properly. They have no legal obligation to bring in a manager.
That's right.
The only time that they do is if you happen to represent your own offer in that situation. If you're representing your own offer that is for you and your family, and you're going to make that offer, you must bring in a manager in that position.
And let me just yeah. And so the conflict there is, can you honestly speak to your offer impartially, comparing it to the other offers when you're getting paid, call it both sides of the commission, if that client accepts your offer? You need to let your seller know that this is the circumstances and this is why it's a potential conflict. And it doesn't have to be your manager that comes in. We really recommend you contact us and have us recommend someone who's experienced and well-versed.
Correct.
It just needs to be another representative from the brokerage. But I want to let you guys know, guys, contact us because we will often have one of our assistant managers come out to help you out. So don't think it has to be just a manager. Or we do often have it where in some of the satellite communities, people who are versed in that aren't officially assistant managers or managers who are very well versed in this who can help you guys out. But just make sure that before you just say, oh, don't worry, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I can do it, that they know what the conflict is. Will I treat this offer, will I give the same respect to another offer when I get paid more if you accept this?
I personally like it when you bring in a manager.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
It's better for integrity. It's better for the whole industry, and it raises less questions from the other buying agents and their clients. And overall, everybody feels better about the process. In particular, those 3, 4, 5 other scorned buyers that might be thinking about writing a formal complaint, they feel better knowing that a manager or somebody that was rightful for the position stepped in to help. All right.
All right. Tip number 6, did we do that one?
Tip number 6, if you feel like a competition was handled unfairly, talk to your manager.
Yeah.
A lot of that emotion that gets involved, that can take things off course to where, question things that were handled correctly. Talk to your manager. Let's analyze it together. Don't go back to your buyer and question everything.
Don't dig on your client,
and incite all those questions. When they come at you with all that emotion, take a breath.
Yeah.
Listen to their concerns. Check into it with legislation. Talk to a manager, and together let's make things go smoothly, so that no complaints, no issues are made unless they're necessary.
That's right. No, that's right. One more point here. We have what is the one strategy most agents do not know about?
That would be when you have multiple offers. We talked about it already. When you have several offers coming in, that you can disclose the details of the best offers if you wish to all parties in an effort to get the best offer for your seller.
If your seller has given you written instructions.
For a lot of you, this is gray area, so definitely look into it. Talk to a manager.
That's right.
You are going to be faced with more competitions as the year goes on, I assure you. The better prepared you are, the more of a professional you're going to look like, and the better your clients are going to feel about the whole thing.
Now, okay, I just want to talk to that for 1 second, because I just want to say here, I know that some of you might be thinking, well, hey, I don't want my offer disclosed, so how do I protect my buyer in order to do that? And I've seen some people do this where they say, in their offer, they'll write in, and seller agrees that this offer is to be kept confidential and everything else. And they hand that offer. Well, that offer only has one signature and one initial on it, and that is of your buyer. The seller hasn't agreed to that term, which means they can't be bound by it. You can't bound the seller by something by just putting it in writing.
That's right.
And saying the seller agrees to come wash my shoes and detail my car before they look at this offer. You can't do that. And there's no. It was written in the offer that you looked at only if the seller accepts that. So the way to do it, if you want to protect that, you need a non-disclosure form in advance. And I'm not going to get into this in terms of how you write it or anything else. But you'd have to write on Microsoft Word saying seller agrees to not disclose the offer that's coming, agreement number, whatever, to any other parties. They sign that first.
That's right.
Then they get the offer. You can't write it in the offer if no one agrees to it. Now, that's very uncommon. That's untraditional. But just most people say, I'm going to write that in. It doesn't mean anything as a buyer agent if you write it into your offer, because the seller hasn't accepted your offer, so you can't bind them by the terms of the contract.
That's right.
Anyways, that's my rant. Rant over.
Yep. I'm sure we could go on more and more about competing situations.
Yeah.
But some of the nuts and bolts were discussed today, and if you're not sure about it, read the legislation. I'll be sending out some links this week to everybody. Read the legislation, get caught up, understand it. It's in the best interest of you and your clients to know this like the back of your hand.
Awesome. Terence, thank you so much for bringing this to our attention. Thank you so much for taking the time to prepare. You over-prepared for it, which is outstanding. Appreciate that a lot. And thank you again to Renee for coming on. Again, reneehoose.com, HUSE.com. You can find more information. And May 9th, 1 p.m. to 3 p.m., Reality of Rental Real Estate is what the course is called. So get online and get registered for that on our virtual office. And we're going to take you guys out with a cool video from Heineken that has been trending around Facebook, but it's a pretty good feel-good one. So we'll see you guys next week. Thanks
Have a good week.
Thanks.
Yep.